Hello and welcome back to Azure Terraformer. Today I sit down with the Azure Terraformer Code Ninja Squad and we have our first quarterly meetup. I thought I would share because this is a really insightful conversation with two pretty awesome Azure Terraformers. We talk about lots of stuff. Everything from Azure verified modules to module design philosophy to Azure RM versus AZ API to the broader Microsoft Terraform provider ecosystem. And we even have a little bit of fun too, talking about some of my recent gags due to the April Fool's Day holiday. Channel membership is a great way to support the channel, whether you just want to declare yourself as an official Azure Terraformer, or you want to join this elite squad of code ninjas, or if you want to join my inner circle, where you can spend more quality time with me, working on your problems in context. Anyways, I could not be more blessed to have two cool dudes like Dan Kitch and Stephen Carlson as part of the Azure Terraformer Code Ninja Squad. It was a lot of fun hanging out and talking Terraform and talking Azure. So, hope you guys enjoy, and if you want to join us next time, you know what to do. Smash that join button and join the Azure Terraformer Code Ninja Squad. Anyways, without further ado, here we are.
There we go.
There we go. We got it.
Nice.
Nice. Hey, man, look at Steve Carlson, man. He's got a cool little setup there, man. Got a jersey back there. Is that like my grandfather has a flag like that? Is that flag of any special meaning?
So a guy that I've worked with now for probably 20 years, he's actually in your Discord server, Robbie. He is a major general in the U.S. Army, flies Apaches, and that is a mission flag that he brought home from his last deployment for me. And then that one right there flew on the anniversary of Pearl Harbor above the USS Arizona.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that's cool. I only got one of those. I don't have it. Like my mom, she keeps it, but it's for my grandfather.
That would be a much better reason to have one of those. Yes.
WW2. He was an engineer on. He was on the bubble to go for D-Day, but they weren't like first wave like the beach goers, but they
Yeah.
He came in second wave and was supposed to go build bridges, but his unit's gear got sunk in the channel, so they were kind of
Still the greatest generation.
Yeah, indeed. I had the pleasure to go on a trip with my dad to the 75th anniversary of D-Day, 2019. That was good.
You went to Normandy on the 75th?
I did. Yep.
I was there.
Were you really? Wow.
I was certainly there. It was a retirement dream of mine to go to Normandy.
Yep.
And my wife made it happen for the 75th anniversary.
Oh my gosh,
that's awesome.
So funny. What an interesting coincidence. Hey Dan, how's it going, man?
Yeah, not too bad. All good.
Awesome.
All good. Finally nice talk in the flesh.
Yeah, indeed. Now Dan, you're from the island, right?
Yeah, across the pond.
Yeah, across the pond. So what part of the island are you from?
So we're northwest. So it's you may know Manchester. A lot of people say Manchester.
Manchester, okay.
Yeah, so it's the nearest place that everyone in the world seems to know where Manchester is. So it's just easier to say Manchester.
So
yeah, but northwest.
You're making me thirsty, man. Like every time nice mug by the way. Sneaking that in there, man. Yeah.
I got some
I love
family friends that are in Oldham. Oh
yeah, Oldham.
That general vicinity over there, yeah.
Yeah.
Don't tell them they're from Manchester though, because it's. You from Manchester? No, I'm not from Manchester.
Yeah. I've only been to London and England a little bit. I went over to Birmingham, which is I don't know.
Midlands.
Is that's west, right?
Yeah, Midlands. Yeah. So yeah. Yeah, West Midlands, is it Birmingham? Yeah.
Well, yeah, I never miss an opportunity to go back. It's a good place. I have traipsed around Scotland for a client one time. That was very lucky.
Oh, wow.
When it was they were kind of halfway in between Glasgow and Edinburgh. So like
Yeah.
I think we had a dinner one night in Glasgow, but like I took a day trip to Edinburgh and just saw what do they call Edinburgh? It's like the Athens of the North, right? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
it's a beautiful place. It's a beautiful place.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, cool. Hey, I'm glad we got everybody together. Thank you guys so much for the support and the love. Like, really appreciate it. I wanted to get kind of a regular thing going if you guys are game. Like,
Yeah, definitely.
but honestly, I don't know like what I want to hear from you guys. Like, what you guys want to do, what you guys want to get out of this. I mean, I'm open to whatever. How we want to use the time. If we want to, just shoot the shit, if we want to do like AMA, if we want to dig into code, if we want to talk about your specific problem spaces that you guys are working in. Like I like I say on my channel all the time, I don't know everything, but like I know enough to be dangerous, and like I have an algorithm that I follow, so I'm happy to help where I can. But what are you guys thoughts?
Yeah, it'd be nice to sort of pick at your brain. I think definitely just to lean on you for a bit of experience. Because I know obviously, I think that comes across a lot in your videos as well. It's clear that you've got a lot of experience in this area. So it is. And I think that's the main reason why I've sort of subscribed. So that, oh, here we go, perfect. We've got someone here who can present real world scenarios. It just fits the bill. It's just perfect. Right? We can lean on that, especially in our organisation, because we're still very much in the early days of adopting this sort of infrastructure as code approach. The infrastructure that we provision is very much one time done. There's no repeatable. Yeah, there's no repeatable. We're not spinning up in multiple instances of the same resource. So it's a very much one time, there you go, it's done. It's like, now what?
Yeah, that's what I've been trying to advocate on my channel, is that like people and I think we as Microsoft, like the broader Microsoft, I think we may not do the best job of this, right? And it's more of like we are very interested in getting the meters spinning, right? So we want you to get it out there as quickly as possible, and we want to remove all breaks, right? Just like any way you can get stuff provisioned, that's the greatest. But like I think something that, and we're getting better at this. I think there's definitely the seeds of change, or whatever. The seeds of change are happening. I think mindsets are shifting a little bit, and there is more of a thought about day two, right? And like, okay, we spent the engineering time to automate this. We shot it up to the cloud. Like, now what? And I think that's often neglected by the hyperscalers. And that's one thing that, before I joined Microsoft, I was like a practitioner. Like, I did this out in the field. Like, I helped customers adopt it. And that was like the biggest thing, is like I ran into customer after customer who just like had these whiz bang consultants that were just like, yeah, let's do some infrastructure as code. Let's do some Terraform. And then they drop a bunch of Terraform, and it's all magical. And it shoots stuff up in the cloud, and then the consultants leave, and then the customer's like, well, now what?
Yeah.
Like, what the crap? And then the code just atrophies, and like nobody uses it. So it's like,
yeah, that's exactly the same sort of scenario that we've just been through. We had a third party consultant firm come in, provide Terraform. That's fine. They provision the infrastructure. They leave. They get handed over to us. It's like, okay, we're not experts in it, and it's try to pick up the pieces and make changes. How do we make changes to this that's already been deployed? Because already we're seeing manual drift with the stuff that's being provisioned, because the skill set just isn't there, and people are making changes in the portal outside of Terraform, and it's just it's a challenge.
Indeed. Steve, how about you? Where are you at in your journey?
I've been doing this for a while, for multiple companies, and I'm one of the guys that had to learn the hard way, right? You talked about the consultant coming in and laying down a bunch of code and then walking away, and it's no longer their problem. And so I was a Java engineer for 15 years, and then all of a sudden your environment changes and there's nobody around to help you troubleshoot that environment. And so it was DevOps and Terraform and cloud was all born out of brutal necessity. So yeah, it's last two environments have been healthcare companies, and cloud becomes an entirely different scenario when HIPAA and healthcare information gets involved. So yeah, I mean, as far as the time goes, I mean, it's for me, it's talking about what the future looks like more than the current, right? It's decisions need to be made now based on unknown in the future changes and shifts, like this whole Microsoft certified modules, and how that fits into existing Microsoft, Terraform, HashiCorp partnerships. Like there was a nice discussion in the chat with around that and the landing zone architecture, right? Those certified modules were going to replace the landing zone, and I'm like, I don't see how that's going to ever happen. But yeah, just what that future roadmap looks like. So there's better planning now, because if landing zone went away, like I'd be a dead man. Like I don't know how I would recover from that being de-supported, going away, not having community support, I guess, in the future. So anyway.
So do you find that for the landing zone, because I know someone touched on it in the chat, that it was all very much targeted at scale, and that the Azure verified modules were there as a sort of to provide that flexibility and that almost, you only need this little bit, you don't need this full-blown landing zone and platforms and all this sort of stuff. Do you find that you always provision the same landing zone architecture for every customer, regardless of size?
Yeah, for us it's a little bit different, right? Landing zone is meant to be, my understanding is as an enterprise, you need to scale out the services that you offer in a secure, how do I put this? In a manner that is befitting a scalable enterprise, right? That you have essentially a DMZ, the connectivity subscription, right? That all of your VPN connectivity goes into, and then each of the spokes in that hub spoke network, they're not able to see one another, right? And so I think there's a lot of ways you can deploy the landing zone. They talk about deploying it as I need to deploy SAP, and that is a landing zone by itself, right? That service that the company provides, or that the company uses, right? That the infrastructure guys lay down all of this base infrastructure and hand that pre-provisioned landing zone subscription over to the SAP team internally, and then they put in all of the infrastructure that they need within that subscription, knowing that there's an entire ecosystem behind it that allows them to do what they need to do in that environment. And so for us, rather than it being internal services, it's clients, right? We need to segregate clients from one another. And so the landing zone made sense for making that segregation. To me, and I could be wrong, but those certified modules are more of a I, as a starting out engineer in Terraform, want to deploy a VM. Well, there's a lot of stuff that goes into a VM, like the network and the network security group and storage accounts and backups and all sorts of other stuff that go into writing that Terraform than just going Azure RM resource virtual machine, right? And so it allows, to me, it's great for people that are beginning in Terraform to lay something down in a with a single resource, but that is to an industry standard, that isn't just throwing up a virtual machine and going, hey, it has a public IP and I can RDP to it. Never mind all the security that goes along with that, should go along with that, right? So anyway, I'm rambling.
Yep. Yet I think I've talked about this on my channel. Like I did a landing zone talk, but I see landing zones as kind of like setting the field, right? Whether it's football or whether it's baseball, like, you know, there's certain things that need to be there in order for play to commence. And, you know, like you mentioned, Steve, it's in the enterprise, like that's, you know, do we have like a VWAN? Do we have like the security boundaries between these different places? There's kind of layers to that cake, and, you know, there's base layers that are like networking and policy. And then there's like higher level layers like SAP, you know, it's a great example of like more of a workload centric, you know,
exactly,
landing zone. And then once you get into workload centric landing zones, there's a whole bunch of them, right? Like just throw a rock. Like you could create a landing zone for any like type of workload. But it's probably going to be predicated on some base layer to be being laid down. My struggle, and this has kind of come up, and I have to walk the line a little bit on my channel for obvious reasons, but like my struggle is my perception. You know, I've looked at those modules before I joined Microsoft, after I joined Microsoft, you know, and I've had conversations with many of the authors of those modules at Microsoft, and my perception of those modules is that they are very monolithic in that it makes me wonder like how people are using them. Are they just shotgunning stuff into the cloud and then ClickOps managing them? Or are people actually like managing the change through infrastructure as code with them? I don't see how it would be feasible to do it through an infrastructure as code process to manage it long term. I could be wrong, and I'd love to hear. And that's why, like, every time somebody in the Discord like mentions some things about ALZ or, you know, the different modules, I'm always like, how do you guys use this? Do you guys like run apply more than once? So like if you use those, yeah. Steve, like what do you guys do? Is it one of those things where you like shot those things out there and like, okay, it's industry standard, it's wonderful, but like now we're going to manage it just with like what are the, you know, like what are the SecOps teams, you know, or like those teams that what are they called? You know what I mean? Those operator teams, the NOC, you got your NOC and you got your SOC. And you're just like, all right, guys, let's like keep this thing healthy.
We actually run our Terraform code nightly, just to make sure that nothing has changed. Policy, things of that nature, to make sure none of that has been disabled or. Because we're a small company, I mean, it's a healthcare startup, and so there are a lot of people with administrative capabilities right now that shouldn't have it. And as we go forward, that'll end. But they have the ability to elevate to a contributor role rather than reader. And so I run it nightly, or I should say, Robbie and I are the team for this, and we do run this nightly. to make sure that nobody's gone in there and put in a policy exception. Allowing public IPs on PaaS-based services, right? Storage accounts, container registries, things of that nature. And so, making sure that people are not shortcutting, HIPAA and SOC requirements. And so, yeah, we do run it nightly. We have not gone through a major version upgrade, a breaking change in a version upgrade. All of the upgrades that we've gone through thus far with the landing zone have all been minor changes. There's only been one time it ever changed anything that we did. But mostly, you get a no changes detected message. It's actually been really easy to lay that stuff down with Terraform and then manage our infrastructure and requirements around it, and keeping those things separate. I mean, the one thing we've had an issue with right now, right, is that when you want to do role-based access control with storage accounts, that's one of the policy requirements when it comes to HIPAA High Trust, is that you disable key-based authentication to your storage accounts. And so to turn on RBAC for, and this is, I'm not bagging on Microsoft, I love Microsoft, but it seems like every time I turn around, it's one service or one thing based on security turns into another cost, right? And so you want to turn on role-based access control on a storage account, which is completely different than RBAC for AKS or Key Vault or any of those other services, right? All of a sudden, you have to turn on, because of, I never thought that 25 years into my career, I would still be fighting with Windows NT stuff, leftovers. But to do role-based access control with storage accounts, you have to have a domain controller. And so you have to add that directory services controller in Azure, because Azure Entra ID was never really an Active Directory. I mean, as you know, I'm preaching to the choir here. And so there were a lot of missing features. And so they had this domain services item you had to add in. And it really just takes over, like a domain controller, just wants to own everything. And so that's the first thing that we've struggled with, is how does that fit into the landing zone? Because the landing zone is what's controlling that hub, spoke, network connectivity, private DNS resolution, all of those things. And then you you deploy a lightweight domain controller into that environment, and it's like, who's now in charge? The domain controller wants to be in charge. The landing zone stuff wants to be in charge. Who's truly in charge of all this stuff? And I think we got it figured out. But yeah, it's the first time that the landing zone has felt half-baked. And I say half-baked because they do have a reference to it in the code. And it's like, this is a placeholder for directory services. And that's a comment that's in the code. And I'm like, oh, great. So it's coming down the line, but it isn't here now when I need it.
Yeah. No, that's extremely insightful. I think that highlights this nature of Terraform modules and the workspaces that we create, how we need to be very thoughtful about the interfaces outward, right? So that we can kind of plug in to extensions, in the future. And how, as module authors, like if we don't think about those external interfaces, it can lead to friction, right? That you're experiencing. Like, how do I get this infrastructure that's managed with this module, right, to be connected? How do I bridge that with connective tissue to something else that maybe is not the responsibility of that module, right? Like maybe I want to stand up a lightweight domain control, what do they call it? ADDS or something?
Yeah, it's called Active Directory Domain Services.
Yeah. And I want an ADDS thing go over here, but I need a bridge, to connect these two together so that they work in harmony. And it's a big problem. It's a big problem. So you definitely have to have thought put into making extensions to your modules. And I think it's almost like a philosophy thing, right? In terms of module authorship, like you need to approach a module in that way. And like, it comes down to like, I don't know if you guys know Angular or React, right? It's like, there's a distinct philosophical difference between those. Angular is like, I want to do everything. And React is just like, well, I could go anywhere. I could go here and I could go there, plug me in anywhere, whatever is cool, And I think with Terraform, like we should be like leaning more towards the React side, which is, not building websites, but like, you know what I mean? Like more plug and play, pluggable nature, smaller blast radiuses, where we can...
The user-friendly sauce that just gets laid down over everything to make it all nice. So, but yeah, I mean, when it comes to that landing zone stuff, right? We made a decision a long time ago. Those repos for the landing zone module deployments, they are not to be customized, touched. If it's outside of the basic configuration that those allow for, you do not put it in there. You create a separate repo, separate project, separate deployment, whatever, and those things are managed outside of the landing zone. And so far it's been pretty good. So yeah, I could see if you were monkeying with that project, the landing zone project, the module itself, attaching a bunch of stuff to its deployment, where you could make it so very much your own that the very next update would break everything that you wanted to, or that you were trying to accomplish. So, anyway.
Yeah, you definitely need, like, if you were going to draw a dependency on that thing, I wouldn't go change the internals of that thing at all. I agree with that 100%, because, and that, I think that's what I don't know if ALZ like falls into this. I am planning a collaboration video next week with Matt White. So,
oh, nice.
Me and Matt, we're going to sit down and we're going to look at all the modules that Microsoft has published. And
I freaking love his GitHub username.
I know, it's really
He's
cool.
A geek.
Like how can I compete with that? Like, that's so brilliant. Like, my last name is just a jumble of consonants and vowels. It's like if I ran for president, I'd have to change my name to Johnson or something. So Matt is like the expert, like with modules at Microsoft. So I do, as you guys know, like from my channel, like I do most of my own module development, and I have a different, philosophy than most of what Microsoft puts out. But I think it's important for people to know, like, because Microsoft is in this transformational period, like this AVM thing is a new thing. And it should bring a lot of goodness, right? Like, you will get support. Like, these are going to be supported by Microsoft FTEs, which is pretty cool. Like, I don't know. I mean, Anton is like the biggest thing in town on the AWS side from a module standpoint. Anton Bobanco. You guys know that guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Name rings a bell.
It should, man. He's like the father of Terraform module content. But Anton, like he does it out of the kindness of his heart, right? I don't think there is, I could be wrong, but like, I don't think there is anybody on AWS that creates modules like this. Maybe in the CDK world, but
of course, yeah, no, yeah.
But Microsoft.
Did you not have was there not a dispute between you and someone about something? Was there, or do I recall something on LinkedIn maybe, or
no,
I can't remember.
No, me and Anton. Me and Anton are cool. Yeah.
I might be getting confused with someone else. Yeah, I seem to recall something like that.
They're okay. We're getting into drama territory. There was some drama on Reddit, and somebody like tried to get me banned from the Terraform subreddit, and then whoever did it posted from some alt account, and then which had like all this porn and stuff on it. Like, who knows? It was insane. And then after they got outed by somebody, what are you doing? They tried to pretend to be Anton. So
that was it. Yeah.
Me and Anton, like, we're cool. Like, we're boys. Saw him at HashiConf. Like, we had a good conversation about Azure policy. I think he's kicking some stuff around with policy over on the AWS side. Maybe trying to do some multi-cloud thing, but Yeah, he does his live streamings like every week. He's pretty solid, community member, but it does a whole bunch of AWS. So, but yeah, where was I going with that, Anton? Oh yeah, like we were gonna have legit Microsoft first party support for modules, which should be pretty cool. And there is roadmap for a whole bunch of new modules and workload specific things. And I think they're trying to make them a little bit more like smaller, so that it's you can kind of pick and choose. It's more of like a buffet instead of like a here's the whole world kind of thing. So that looks definitely promising. But
yeah, I'll have to get a conditional access module uploaded. I think start contributing there.
that's what you're working on, right? Like
yeah. Although it's been put on the back burner for the time being, but it's quite a sophisticated deployment that we've got going on there with that, and it works really well. And like we talked about managing change, that's all managed through the policy through Terraform, so that works really well.
And that's the Entra that's the Entra ID, the Azure AD Entra ID provider, right?
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
So that's another thing I'm trying to do is like I feel like all the love for Terraform is like either the Azure RM provider or the AZ API provider, and it's like, guys, like the Azure AD, the Entra ID provider is pretty awesome. Like, why don't people from Microsoft talk about that more? It's like this amazing secret. Like I don't get it. So, yeah, I'm a huge fan of. I don't spend too much time in that world, but I'm a huge fan of like that provider, and I think it definitely deserves more visibility. So
yeah, let's see if I can maybe get something uploaded. Maybe we'll see. I'm still actually getting used to the whole concept of modules. To be honest, it's still something that I'm not quite fully familiar with. A lot of the infrastructure is called Terraform configuration files that we use are very flat. There is no modules going on really. So.
And that's okay. I think just the other day, like HashiCorp posted some guy, I don't know who this gentleman is. He must be like some ambassador or something, but he was like, yeah, like clear is better than clever. And so like if you think about it, like if you're going to manage this stuff long term, you don't want to have like to do a Rubik's cube every time you do a deployment, right? Like what is this thing going to do? Like we don't want our infrastructure as code to be an Enigma machine. So it should predictability, clarity, visibility, readability, like whatever you want to say. These are the important abilities of an infrastructure as code solution. Like very different abilities are important when you're building like a REST API, right? Or some other system on the cloud. Like scalability might be important, high availability might be important, but like when you're doing infrastructure as code, different abilities matter. And I feel like a lot of people are like, they might bring different like lenses to the infrastructure as code world. I know I did. But it's really important to, bear in mind, like it's the work doesn't end after you shoot it up into the cloud.
Yeah.
So you guys all Azure all the time, multi-cloud, hybrid cloud?
100% Azure.
Yeah. There we go. How about you, Dan?
Yeah, all Azure. Yeah. Yeah. A little bit of AWS still hanging around.
Oh, don't be ashamed. But... It's okay. We're not going to kick you out.
Yeah, a little bit of AWS still floating around, I believe. Nothing much, but yeah, it's all our workloads are in Azure. Yeah.
Good stuff. And do you guys, how much time do you spend in like Azure RM versus AZ API?
Oof. Well, funny you should say that. I have started using the AZ API resource for Logic App deployments. So there's a bit of a, it was a bit of a work. It was a bit of a workaround really, because we ran into a limitation trying to deploy Logic Apps to multiple environments, and the parameters, the connections, and the API connections, and this whole chicken and egg. What comes first, because the API connections need to exist prior to the Logic App deployment, all this sort of stuff. And I came across a sort of nice little workaround to deploy consumption-based Logic Apps using Terraform, being able to pump them off to different environments. Quite in a nice fashion, but it relied on the AZ API resource rather than the actual Logic App resource, which I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head. Azure RM Logic App Workflow, maybe it's called. Can't remember.
Yeah,
like a bit of both, really.
Dataflow or
something like that. I can't remember.
Yeah, I might be confusing it with Data Factory. Because Data Factory and Logic Apps are like two birds of the same feather in my mind. It's like they're both these services that have their own like meta language, right, and their own designer. And they're very designer centric, and that makes it very problematic to automate.
This is it. This is the exact problem that we sort of ran into. You create these complex Logic Apps, click ops in the designer. You sort of extract that JSON, deploy that using the AZ API resource. And sort of manipulate the parameters using the Terraform variables. So it works. It works. Bit of an unorthodox approach, but it works.
Yeah, I've tried to avoid Logic Apps for that specific reason. I tend to stick to functions, but that's because I'm an old school C# developer, so I'm always like trying to find reasons to write C#. But yeah, like I did some projects with Azure Data Factory, same thing. It's like, and this was before AZ API. So we were using the ARM, what was it, the Azure RM deployment template?
Deployment, yeah.
And oh God, I mean, talk about pain and suffering. But at least the AZ API provider should be a little bit better than just those old nasty the deployment template.
It's what the deployment template, yeah. And that April Fool's video that you uploaded, God, I was thinking, what?
Did I get you? Did I get you?
Yeah, because I had the subtitles on. I was thinking, what? And I saw the comments, and I was like, surely.
Did you see that one, Steve?
I did. As soon as I saw the title, I was like, no. He just got made a HashiCorp ambassador. That ain't happening.
So nobody even looked at the date. Nobody looked at the date. It was just like, so it sounds like I got you, Dan, because Dan was looking at the subtitles. He's like, no way, no, really. Oh my gosh, I can't believe this.
I have, fortunately, I mean, the only way I knew it was April 1st and April Fools was I've got some grandkids that are getting a little bit older and have just started getting into the whole April Fool's joke thing. So they had already gotten me that morning. So yeah. Yeah, I was fully aware about that time what day it was.
Yeah.
I should have done it earlier in the morning. Then maybe I would have gotten people. But I got somebody from HashiCorp. He's from Australia. He was like, ARM, really? And I'm like, gotcha. But I didn't realize this, but like when I publish this stuff, it's to a global audience. Like, I guess I don't realize like if there are certain like American only holidays, like is there an April Fool's like is it like a well-known thing in the UK or?
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Cause
very much so.
I got a little worried. I'm like, oh man, like maybe half the planet actually believes me. No idea. But I showed it to my dad, and my dad, like, he knows nothing about technology, but he thought it was funny. He's like, "You're laying it on pretty thick, man." And I'm like, "I'm trying, like, because I'm trying to lay it on thick, you know." But
Well, anybody that's ever watched any of your previous videos would fully understand that Mark would never say such a thing about ARM. There would never be this backtrack to ARM template. So
see,
what's
I debated. I was like, I had like an angel and a devil on one shoulder, and I was like, like what should my April Fool's joke be? Should it be about me going to Bicep? And I was like, nah, I might get in trouble. Like, somebody might like get unhappy. One of my colleagues might get unhappy. So maybe I should like make this a little bit less like plausible. And then and then I thought, well, maybe I should convert to Open Tofu. And then I was like, I don't think I can handle that hate. What's that?
I'm like, HashiCorp isn't going to like that one.
Well, I mean, I think HashiCorp can tell it's satire, but like when I do the satire, like I guarantee you, like I would muster the ire of that community. Like they already kind of hate my guts, so it's like I have to be a little careful.
Then why not go for? They already hate you.
Yeah. Shoot. I made a commitment. I'm trying to avoid controversy this year. Just trying to focus on the important things, like getting stuff done, and not chase ambulances and stuff like that. So that's trying real hard. Sometimes they make it really hard, though. It's like sometimes. But,
shoot.
Anyways. So So how did you guys get to how did you guys get to Terraform? Like where did you start? Like when was your first experience with Terraform that brought you there?
Oh God, that's going back now. I actually think it was in deploying a virtual machine in VMware. Using the VMware provider. And this is going back some years now. I've always loved anything automation. My background was very much PowerShell.
I can tell by your icon. You have that guy writing the PowerShell.
Yeah. So I actually managed to buy and secure my first home using PowerShell. Like
you wrote a program to close on your house in PowerShell, or like your job, you were gainfully employed as a PowerShell developer.
The Selenium web testing framework, or you might pronounce it Selenium. There was a PowerShell wrapper for that particular testing framework, and I used that to look at, say, housing development website to notify me when an element on the page changes for when a property becomes available, and it'll fire me an email notification. Because when we were looking to buy our first home, it became apparent very quickly that they were just getting snapped up. People were buying these houses. We couldn't get a look in anywhere. So I need to sort of think outside the box here. So I set up a little job just to query the page soon, because each house had a status: reserved, open, sold. So when the status changes to open, email, done on the phone, reserve. this house that I'm sitting here. So, and there's obviously there's obviously tools out there that you can use to do that sort of function. But I thought it'd be a good exercise to just create a little script. That was my sort of background, has very much been scripting, PowerShell, automation, and just naturally sort of evolved. And I started working in the cloud space. It just naturally sort of happened. Yeah. So.
Yeah, it was also personal. I was a Java engineer, and I was working on a project. I was a consultant at Google, a security consultant, physical security consultant for Google. And anyway, it's about the time I started getting into crypto day trading on Coinbase back in 2015. And I hated the clicking through and trying to find stuff in GCP. So when I wanted to stand up infrastructure, I'm like, there's got to be an easier way to stand up infrastructure, and Terraform was the answer. And so got all into HashiCorp, and yeah, it was just playing around at night and not wanting to deal with the GCP experience. And that was before Google outlawed workloads that did crypto trading. So so yeah, it was just out of a personal messing around project at night, and it's actually turned into a good career move. I find that here in Utah, everybody's a Java engineer. There's, for every one job, there's 100 people that want to fill it. And when it comes to actual cloud engineers, I hate saying DevOps engineer because that's not a job title. When it comes to actual cloud engineers, they are few and hard to come by, good ones, and people are willing to pay what that engineer is worth in order not to make the news for the wrong reasons, right?
Mm.
My previous employer just made the news for the wrong reasons, and it dealt with their cloud infrastructure, and when that happens, like I don't know how you recover from that as a professional, right? When you are the subject of a news story, or somebody has attacked the company you work for, and you get let go from that position, it was a new challenge. So anyway.
Yeah, it's especially in healthcare. I mean, it's I spent some time as the CTO of a healthcare startup, and like HIPAA's like not to be trifled with. Like they're like, you could do jail time,
Yes, you can. Yes, you can. And it's getting there's new rules coming out this year that even make it more stringent. So yeah, it's not a joking matter. But fortunately, I mean, the last two companies I worked for, they take it seriously. And yeah, it's HIPAA and SOC and all those audit certifications, policies, whatever, the security around those makes it a lot easier when your company takes it seriously. Mm. When senior management doesn't understand it or doesn't take it seriously, makes it much harder for you as an engineer to try and sell some of those things, because they are restrictions, right, to the developer engineers that work in your environment, or the end users that utilize those environments. Makes it really hard. And I think that comment you just made about jail time makes it really easy for executives to go, hey, whatever you need, you just do it, and we'll stand behind you.
Exactly. That's especially hard in like startups, because it's all about how do we make money, how do we generate revenue, and sometimes it's like, sometimes people are willing to make risks like that, and it's kind of
security is a premium for sure.
Indeed, yeah. I like I mentioned, I came from a .NET background. I was a Java developer for a little while, back in early JDK 1.0, 1.1 days. Dabbled, like just getting into J2EE, and then .NET comes out, and I kind of switched horses. So, but
So that was what, 2000, 2001?
Yep, exactly. 2001, I wrote my first ASP.NET project, and kind of never looked back. Back then, Java, like, in order to handle exceptions, you had to write your own exception handler. I mean, it was very. I'm sure it's way better these days, but
who handled exceptions back in 2000? You just let that crap print the screen.
Yeah.
Asking your end user, what's the error message say?
What's in the call stack?
That's right. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. But I kind of moved into cloud space, and of course I was in consulting, and I was at the time, I had moved out of Avanade, and so like Avanade's on my wall back. Rod's there it is. Rod Stewart's your colleague, right? Or is it Robbie? It's different.
Robbie.
Rod Stewart. Rod Stewart's the singer, isn't he?
Rod Stewart's another guy that's on my Discord channel. Not to be confused with the Rod Stewart, but so Rod also works at Avanade. I worked at Avanade for like 10 years, but after I was a Microsoft joint venture, after I left Avanade, I had to like embrace this broader Microsoft ecosystem, or like technology ecosystem outside of the Microsoft, walled garden, so to speak. And so I had to learn AWS, and I had to learn like CloudFormation, and like all these, I had to learn whatever. And so I did some data center transformations, and kind of walked into a project where they were using, what was it called? It's some very primitive, like old school infrastructure as code service on AWS. I don't think people use it anymore. It's called OpsWorks. You guys ever heard of that? I don't think people use it anymore, but it was like this like entry level like infrastructure as code thing. And I'd been using CloudFormation templates, and I was like, why are we doing this? And so like we were doing OpsWorks, and like I was trying to get them to go to CloudFormation. And then that's when I was like kind of evaluating all the different things. And so I found Terraform, and I was like, oh, like, wow. Because OpsWorks is basically like some Ruby. It's like Ruby based. Oh, it's Chef. It's like
Chef and Puppet.
Yes. Chef and Puppet. We were using the Chef version, so it was all Ruby. And it was just like, I mean, it was kind of cool. Like you said, Dan, I appreciated that it just automated things, which is like, yeah, this is cool, right? But like, it just seemed very kind of, I don't know, non-standard. It seemed kind of not very efficient. It was a very opinionated implementation, and I think those limitations kind of drew me to like other tools. And thinking about better ways of doing it. And that's when I like discovered Terraform, did Terraform with AWS, then like worked with Azure. Again, I had to oscillate between different clouds. So I had to learn, I came from Azure background. I had to learn AWS, and then I had to one foot in each world for a long time. And Terraform's kind of a natural fit when like you are working with different clouds. I did fall for the old, write once, run everywhere, like that. For like early days of Terraform, that was a big misconception. People thought that Terraform, like somehow you could write it on AWS and it could work on Azure. I fell for that, and I'm like, and then I quickly found out, oh no, that's not how it works at all. And I've been consistently trying to, eradicate that misconception for many, many years now. But that was back in, I think 2014, 2015, probably 2015, because I left Avanade end of 2013. I don't know.
I feel like that was a big HashiCorp talking point, though. Like that wasn't like something that came out of thin air. Like I had that same misconception in that same time frame of, are you kidding me? I can write code once and deploy to any cloud or on-prem. Like that was like the known fact about Terraform. And then you
Really?
start writing Terraform, and you're like, how the heck can you do that? Like, this is not possible.
Yeah, you use totally different provider.
Right? And I'm thinking maybe they were writing the Azure resource group and then the equivalent in AWS, and it was sitting side by side in the same code base.
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah,
Yeah, I still to this day that I'm still perplexed as to how I got to that point of where that came from, of believing that it's one set of code deployed everywhere. Like it was like the Scala of infrastructure as code, right?
Yeah.
It cross piling into some other language,
Yeah.
or some other environment. So yeah, I don't know.
I mean, it is true to a certain extent in that it's the same, and this is how I explain it now. It's the same mechanics, right? It's the same tool, but different code, right? So
Yeah.
like you need to learn how to use the tool. You only learn how to use the tool once, but you have to use different code to target different environments, right? So in that sense, it does cut down on that conceptual overhead of like CloudFormation does it this way and ARM does it this way and whatever does that, and I don't know, like
Yeah, I'm not using ARM and OpsWorks.
Yeah, exactly. OpsWorks and Puppet and Chef and Ansible, like it's insane. So it does rationalize the mechanics of infrastructure as code, which I think is wonderful. But yeah, so cool stuff. Well, we are coming up on time. I hate to let this go, but like this was a lot of fun. I do have a meeting coming up, but thank you guys for hopping on and just hanging out. If you guys have thoughts on agenda items for next time, let me know. Or we can just it could be super casual. Like we could just come on and just this was a really, really awesome conversation. And I feel like I learned a lot from you guys too. So I mean, it's awesome. Appreciate it. And I don't know.
Yeah, likewise. Yeah, really good. Really good.
Great. All right, man. Utah, UK.
Thank you.
I'll until next time. See you guys.
Okay. Thanks,
Cheers.
Mark.
Yeah. Bye. Bye.